Let's see if it works. Oh, yes, it does. Let's go. Okay, well, I've not done these in quite a while, so oh boy, I've actually got a lot of suggestions. I didn't expect this to happen, but I have been actually, I'm not even gonna make a fucking excuse. I just haven't been able to do anything, period. I've been preparing my trip for Japan and I've been talking to a lot of people that Elliot knows. In case you don't know who Elliot is, he's one of my friends that got me the tickets. He had told me he got a hand on a few people from Japan, and they were able to talk to me about how it's going to be, what do I expect there, and all that. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy, but that's not why I'm doing this video today. Today, we're doing the first faction fight I haven't done in quite a few months. So, I'm going to just get into it. Who would win in a faction fight? Now, keep in mind, this is people think that this may be one-sided. You'll find out very soon that it may not be as one-sided as you think. And this is really close. I have done calculations. This is a close fight. Oh boy. And I had to make it one division because it's not fair. I mean, you have like 210,000 Colonial Marines up against 86 million. That's not even fair. Even if the 210,000 are better, 10 times better, that's not enough to stop the military of the United Planets. Not enough. So this is why I limited the numbers of the United Planets. There's just no reason for them to send more than 1 million infantry and just go pummel the shit out of these people. Like, there's no reason. So the first thing is numbers, and I limited the United Planets with numbers because obviously that's not even fair. But in this situation, the Colonial Marines actually have an advantage here. In case you don't know, a single United Planets division is 100,000 personnel. And it's not just infantry. If you send like one division, you have all the things like engineers, pilots, all of these things. The division takes up multiple routes. So it's not just land infantry. Land infantry occur for about 80% of the numbers. So it makes sense as to why they would be 80% of the numbers. So in reality, you're probably going to have around 80,000 infantry. You're still outnumbered. That doesn't mean that they're still not outnumbered. They're still outnumbered no matter what they do. And that's going to be their problem. Here's the difference, though. They may be outnumbered, but the next thing is going to screw over the Colonial Marines if they can't get any other major factors in. This is equipment. Equipment, on the other hand, is going to be a different challenge because, sure, you may think they have better equipment. They've got armored vehicles. Some even say that they have, how do I say, it's kind of something like Titans, like armored mechs. And to that, I have to say one thing: cruise missile. If a cruise missile hits that, it won't matter if it has a shield that is stronger than the sun. If you could recall, United Planets missiles have proton warheads, and those go right through shields. They neglect the shields. Yeah. So it won't matter. If that armor is not strong enough to withstand an 8,000-pound cruise missile, it won't do anything. It's basically just target practice for the Air Force. That's all it is. But then you also have heavy transports, medium transports, and light transports. Then you have the attack aircraft, the fighters, and the bomb. Yeah, the United Planets military is all of a sudden just started pumping out attack aircraft and all this stuff. So it's like, shit, they actually are putting a lot of effort into this. Yeah, but the United Planets knows it will win in a military confrontation when it comes to most powers. But this is just stupid. Equipment easily goes to the United Planets. Easily. That there's no contest. Even if the equipment of the Colonial Marines is somehow better, it doesn't change the fact that their technology cannot, how do I say this? It can't make up for the lack of protection from those missiles. It can't. And if they can't get hit by an 8,000-pound missile, an 855 millimeter cannon from a heavy transport, that's going to do some heavy damage. I don't care what you say. That is strong enough to crack open continents. Let me put this in perspective. So the USS Missouri has a temper problem, in case you don't know. In its history, when an artillery division literally shelled at it, it decided to say, fuck you and the mountain you're on. It didn't even aim at the division, it aimed at the mountain and leveled it. And those were 400 millimeter cannons. What's going to happen when it gets hit with a cannon double that size? It unleashed its entire cannon, sure, but with an 855 millimeter cannon, it will not matter. Whatever's there is dead. It'll be turned into whatever, even if it doesn't hit directly, whatever's there's going to turn to jello. So, sorry, that goes to the United Planets. Compare damage. So we've seen weapons from Alien, and the Colonial Marines do have some pretty good weapons. I'll give them that. They got some pretty damn good weapons. They've been able to kill aliens pretty fairly easily. I don't know about the same for the United Planets. So this is a hard one to parse, but it's, as of right now, I can't say. So this is the first time I have to say that I can't even say it's equal. It's indecisive. I legitimately cannot figure out how strong those cannons are and what weapons they use. The problem is the cost and efficiency. You see, they spend about the same amount for less ammo, less armor, and less transportation. They spend way more. If they had the same amount, they'd be spending dozens of times more. So cost efficiency goes clearly to the United Planets. I mean, if you haven't heard how expensive the ships are in Alien, someone said that they're like 200 billion US dollars for a single tiny ship that's like 200 meters long. Yet it takes 1 trillion credits, 1.5 trillion US dollars, to fund a carrier that's 11 kilometers long. That's not even close. So it's obvious who has cost efficiency here. Discipline. This is a big one, but I don't think it's as clear cut as I expected it to be. I expected it to be the United Planets. I was wrong, because these Marines, even though when they're facing against an enemy that they cannot physically fight in normal circumstances, they still mostly keep their cool. But that's only when they're fighting rebels. The moment they actually realistically start fighting the aliens, they just freak the fuck out. So it's like, you guys are fighting rebel groups like it's nothing, but as soon as you fight the aliens, you guys freak out. See, here's what the United Planets did in the exact same scenario. When they were fighting against militia groups during the Outer Rim conflicts, they weren't doing this shit. This was not the case. Even if the worst came to worst, it's impossible. There's no way that the Colonial Marines can outdo the United Planets in discipline. They get trained for multiple years. You want to know what's part of their training that I've made lore? The officers give the cadet a gun and force them to pull the trigger while it's facing the officer. The cadet has no idea that there's no bullet in it. And so they have to do it. And if they don't do it, they're out. Yeah, you heard that right. That is part of training. Discipline. Even in the brink of destruction, if you don't do what your commanding officers say, that's how they know. That's how they'll know that you'll stand by their side. And generally, once this is done, you actually gain the respect of that soldier because you've got balls. You just ask them to shoot you. I mean, that's crazy. Most people don't realize that. That is crazy. And I think that is what gives them the advantage that they'll need. Morale. So how does this affect the military? I think this is one time where it may not affect much, because the difference between the Colonial Marine and the United Planets is negligible. It's negligible. See, these Marines can work together in small groups and still come out on top. But it don't matter how good their morale is. They'll continue fighting. On both sides will continue fighting, even if they have low morale. But in my center of terms, looking at how we're facing right now and what they could be facing. I'm just gonna say this is a tie. This is basically both sides have near equal morale. They're both ready to kick each other's ass. So that automatically is put in. The United Planets has so much. They already have 3, and the Colonial Marines have 1. But here's where other things come in that might just get them a victory here. I didn't star this, but this could legitimately change the outcome. And when I say that, I'm being serious. The X factor in the environment, the weather, that's not going to do it. But there is a single X factor I'm pretty sure you all know, and it's literally named after the fucking movie itself, the Xenomorphs. Yeah, as stupid as it sounds, that might be their only shot at winning. If they can use the Xenomorphs in ways that the United Planets can't spot them, they could potentially cause massive havoc. The only problem I have with it is Xenomorphs are not invincible, and I'm pretty sure a 75 round would just go right through and kill them. But they're really fast, so by the time you see them and try to move the cannon around, it may be too late. That's why I'm saying this could potentially be the factor that dooms the United Planets here. But yet again, the chances of you using that and all that is really low. But even with that, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, and I'm actually going to give them the X factor because they have that ability to do that. The United Planets doesn't. They don't have that ability. That's why I'm giving the Colonial Marines the benefit of the doubt here. But even then, sadly, it does not help. Because the next 3 things actually, are going to screw them over yet again. Maintenance. Who has the better maintained army? And that easily goes to the United Planets. Why? Better engineers, because they've been doing this shit for decades. They have better everything, basically. They've been doing this shit for thousands of years against militaries that are dozens to hundreds of times more powerful than that of the Colonial Marine Corps. There's no way they can compare. This is basically saying a 450-pound strongman can beat the shit out of a child. No shit! This is not even fair. And at first I was like, should I even add this? Because this is already a victory in their books. Economy. This is difficult because the Colonial Marine Corps does have a decent economy behind it. The only problem I have with it is that it may not be enough to provide a victory. It may not be enough to provide a victory. So, what happens? What happens, right? What happens? So, in my mind, this is probably going to be a slight United Planets victory, and it's due to 2 reasons. One of the main reasons is they just have a stronger economy because they've been there longer. They're thousands of years old, and they've known how to do their own economy because the people have been voting and they figured it out. The United States has been there, sure, 400 years. That's nothing. Comparison to the United Planets, that is nothing. That's not even a human lifespan in their nation. That's not even a human lifespan. So, that's going to do anything. Economy. So we got that one swept up. Resources. This one goes to the United Planets. If these 2 nations fight each other, the United Planets off the bat and at the end is both going to be overpowering them. But I think in the end, it is not going to be the resources that kill them. I think it's going to be the industrial capacity. It's always the industrial capacity with them. And the reason why they're still on top is because the Kaiserans don't have the technology the United Planets does. They don't. And this is why the United Planets still has the strongest economy with the strongest industries. No nation can top it. And when you have 3D printers compared to normal but advanced building techniques, there's nothing you can do. There's really nothing. They could produce missiles in seconds. They could produce bullets and entire magazines for soldiers in a matter of milliseconds. They could do this so quickly if they wanted to just boom, full war. Yeah, now we got 20 quadrillion bullets in a matter of months. Try us. Like, how are you going to beat that? There's no way you can beat that. Technological research, obviously, this is not really that important, but the United Planets technology has slowly started to stall a bit. And it's not because that they don't have enough money. They have more money than every other country's putting in. So why are they stalling? This is because technology. They have to find a way to get through a technological gap without really breaking what they know as physics. And you could say, well, they do that already. They at least have scientific reasonings and ways to break it through scientific methods. This is why they've stalled. And this is why their armor, some people say it may have downgraded. But in terms of protectiveness, it has skyrocketed. The technology doesn't need to be super advanced in order to give great protection. It just needs to be good enough to give the soldier the edge in battle. And when you have many other things that you can give them, like extra pouches for extra amounts of ammo, pouches under here so that you can keep your grenades and just all that, the Colonial Marines don't have that. And this is where I think, even though they're outdone in technology, if they grab pieces of United Planets technology, this could be somewhere where they could turn the tide. This is another place where they can turn the tide. Because, in case you don't know, American scientists are pretty good. Except for not all of them tell the full truth exactly. Yeah, most of it's kind of like a political game. And it doesn't matter who. It's like people go, oh, well, the scientist does this and they're not part of the. Yes, they are. They get hired by Congress and all this shit. I don't trust a damn politician in Congress. I don't hate the presidents because obviously, in my mind, they're just being used by Congress. That's all I think they are. They're just being used by Congress, and we hate them so much. But yet we don't see that Congress is using them. They're being used by Congress to get our votes so that they stay in power. And it's worked. It's worked because people don't see it. So, enough of that. Territory. This is another thing that is negligible too, because it won't matter. It might, but it's nowhere near as big as some of the majors. And territory obviously goes to the Colonial Marines, because there's dozens of worlds that they've settled all across space. They have more worlds than the United Planets has settled. The problem is they won't be able to defend all of them, because the United Planets in a division has a lot of things. A single division is said to have approximately 20 battalions, and it includes a range of, well, not 20 battalions, 20 brigades, and each in those brigades, they have 5 battalions. So that means in a total, you have 100 battalions in a division. That means a single battalion has 500 tanks. So, yeah. Not the best thing in my mind, but that's still quite a lot of tanks in a battalion. That's more tanks than the U.S. has in a fucking battalion. So that's scary. But territory will not matter. If the United Planets can get and sneak into a few territories, send spies in and just wreck the shit out of the Colonial Marines infrastructure, there's really nothing they can do but evacuate planets. That's all they can do. And when they're being chased around and killed in the middle of space, there's really nothing they can do. And when you have jetpacks and you could just go, oh, well, we have Marines. You guys don't need backpacks, or you guys can just attach these to the side of your backpacks. Go fight. They could just go right through space, board these ships with brand new tactical warfare, and all of a sudden they're screwed. If the United Planets can take a ship, study the insides, and see where on the technological scale they're at, they could figure out they could use their board to find a way to beat them. But this is not going to be the big factor. The big factor is industrial capacity, because this is going to be the deal breaker. And this obviously doesn't go to the Colonial Marine Corps, not by a long shot, not even to the entire planet of Earth. Shit. Even if you added every single industry that humanity owns up until that point, not even close. You don't even make a dent. Not by a long shot. It's not even close. Not even close. So the truth is, realistically, in an actual confrontation with all of this in mind, even with the X factor, the United Planets still, in my mind, get the victory 7.5 out of 10 times with just a single division. Now, here's where this gets a little different, because I also heard someone say, well, do a second part, but instead do it with the entire the Earth's military at that time versus the United Planets military. And here's the thing, here's a rule that they said that has to be followed, and I actually thought it was pretty cool. First rule is and here we go. This is the rule. The Earth can enlist 1% of its population, taking by how many people the world will have in 2111, with the worst statistic with being 11 billion. We're just going to go with that. So that means they're going to have 110 million personnel. And the United Planets can use its full military. So who's going to win? Well, here's the first thing that I'm going to say. Numbers, Earth immediately. Basically, the first thing is Earth's going to have better numbers. United Planet still has better equipment. Compare damage is basically the same. But here's where something might be a little different. Cost efficiency. In a war in which you have to mobilize, everything becomes cheaper over time. And this is because you produce more of it, and even though there's a larger market for it, if you produce more than what's being needed and you continue to stockpile it, it becomes cheaper and cheaper to buy. And when there's times where you don't need as much, it just becomes radically cheaper. So over time, it becomes cheaper and cheaper. So in comparison and cost efficiency, that would not be as much in the United Planets territory here. It's still shifted a little over, but the United Planets still has that, they're still over there. Discipline doesn't change. Morale decreases for the Earth. So morale-wise, they're going to be less willing to fight because, you're getting drafted. Obviously, you're not going to like that. So you're going to have less morale because if you have to be drafted, something had to go very wrong. So people are not going to be very happy, and morale would decrease. The X factor. Here's the problem that I have with the X factor is that the same things can apply, except for now the United Planets has full advantage of what it has. It now can take a full advantage of what it has. And the second rule is this is the second one. The United Planets can only begin selective service if they lose over 400,000. Chances are, in this situation, this is not going to happen. So they're not going to be able to selectively service and continue with the war. So that means they'll have to use their military wisely. But knowing from that they have the most advanced military and most powerful military known to mankind, this is probably not going to do too well for the Earth regardless. So the X factor still goes in their hands. Maintenance still goes in the United Planet's hands. The economy, this is going to be a little different. Earth's economy would boost because it's producing way more things that are necessary for the war against the United Planets. They're going to have more and more supplies. Here's where I think at the beginning the Earth would have an economic advantage, but over time that slowly loses its ground, and just a single word has to say that everything that they've built up to that point is gone. Bombers. United Planets bombers are incredibly fast and faster than most AA missiles to date. They could easily zoom past missiles without really having a problem. So the question that remains is, how is the Earth going to do that? Even if the Earth somehow has twice as many people and enlists 2 to 1, this situation cannot be ignored. They're going to get bombed constantly. They're going to lose tens to hundreds of thousands of infantry personnel. All of that is going to be gone. And losses may be 3 to 1 or higher, which is not good. So that's bad. Resources is just about the same. They just, even though they get more resources, it doesn't really change the fact that the United Planets has an entire galaxy's worth of resources just sitting around. So in reality, there's no way the Earth's just going to simply outdo them there. There's no way. Technological research, I think that stays the same, maybe closer to the Earth, maybe they have an advantage. Territory, Earth still has that advantage, and industrial capacity, no matter how hard they try, the United Planets has it. So in my mind, the United Planets, even in this situation, they still win about 7 out of 10 times. But let's do what happens if the United Planets decides midway through the war that it wants to start mobilizing. Let's say the people get pissed off and now they want real blood from the Earth. This changes the situation. Numbers go to the United Planets because if they just enlist 1%, they now have almost 180 million personnel, going from Earth's 110. And that's assuming that only 1% want to come and kick their ass. If we do 2.5%, the United Planets would have over 400 million personnel. Well, yeah, 400 million. That's not even close. Equipment goes to them. Comparison damage goes to them. Cost efficiency goes to them. Discipline goes to them. Morale would most likely still go to them because most people want to fight you now. They want to kick your ass. So now they're angry. They're pissed off. The X factor, even though then with the environment, everything, I still think the Earth has that. But almost the entire front page is now the United Planets. As I said, this changes the situation. Maintenance goes to them. Economy goes to them. Resources goes to them. Technological research is going to still be kicking up. So that means what's going to happen is the United Planets is going to be starting to research more and more technology and see what the hell the Earth can do and what it can't do. So even though I think it's going to maybe raise its technological standpoint to a little higher of a level, I would still think that they are still going to be falling behind in terms of what the Earth can do with research and technology. So Earth still is going to get that one. Territory is still going to still fall to Earth, but the industrial capacity still goes to the United Planets. You have no idea how long I've been trying to study that, but I was also my first try too. So that was my first try to just speak so fast. But almost every single one of these goes to the United Planets. There's like 2 or 3 that don't. If they really wanted to kick the ass of the Earth, this is what would happen. A major United Planets. This wouldn't just be a normal United Planets effect, a major. There would be almost nothing they can do. And even if they release xenomorphs, that may not change the situation. Because that may piss them off more, and that might just get the Earth screwed because now they're going to kick up their bombing campaign. I mean, in total, I feel like that would happen, and over a period of that time, it's like, So in my mind, I think that's what would happen. I'm not too surprised that this was the outcome every single time, but I am just so surprised that someone had told me that they wanted me to do an alien. But next time is going to be a little different. It's not going to be a faction fight, but I think it's going to be called what? A squad showdown. I'm going to be creating possibly a new series called Squad Showdown, where you have maybe a squad of these guys versus a squad of this, and then I use the exact same thing here. I use the exact same thing because it's similar. So this won't change. So it'll be used for the same thing as faction fights. So I'm pretty surprised that this series is still going on. You guys still are asking for stuff. So I'm just surprised, and I'm hoping that Squad Showdown does occur, because then I could actually do what I've always been wanting to do, and that is go down with squads and see who's got the better on the ground. But this time, we're actually going to not just go after the squads, we're actually going to tell you the weapons that they have. We're just going to tell you how effective those weapons are at dealing with what their enemies have. So the first one that I had been given, which I don't know if I'm going to do yet, is a squad of United Planets Marines against UNSC Marines. Yeah, that's the first one. Oh boy, we've got this is quite the lineup. But who knows who's going to win? Because you'd be surprised at how big a squad of Marines for the United Nations Space Command versus the United Planets. You'd be surprised. I think you would be. So that's going to be the next video. So the next video is going to be the first of Squad Showdown. So please make sure you see that video, because that's going to be the brand new beginning of a series. And I'm still doing the one series that has, in my mind, I'm still doing and getting things together. So I'm still going to be part of a few things where I'm going to be part of mods and all that shit. So I'm glad that I get to do the things I get to do while also having my job. I get decent pay and all that stuff. So I'm pretty happy as of right now. But I will hope to see you guys next time. And I do believe that I am off of work tomorrow. So guess who gets to make Squad Showdown? And I'm hoping that if I can get to it tomorrow, oh my. Yeah, buddy, I'm going to do it. So thank you guys. I have been just happy. So thank you guys so much. And I just hope, I'm not even going to force you. Like I always say, I'm not going to force you to like, and not going to force you to subscribe. You do that in your own terms, because it's your choice. You get to choose. Don't be afraid to just say, well, I didn't like this, or I think that you did wrong because of this. And then I'll redo it. And then I'll tell you in the comment section, like, well, even with this, I calculated that it may not change. Or, well, now that you told me this does change a lot of the situations that they're put in, or this may overall change the situation for the war itself. So that's all I got to say. So thank you guys, and I hope to see you next time. Oh yeah, and expect me after my 20th birthday to come on and say, hey, by the way, I did this for my 20th birthday. I think you guys already know what I'm doing, so I'll let you guys let alone. So I'm not going to stall it anymore. So I already said, like it, don't like it, you don't have to. I'm not going to force you. Neither subscribe, so I'm not going to force you to subscribe. So if you do want to subscribe and see more of this stuff, the only thing I have to say left is that is my Wattpad. And if you want to see me on Wattpad, you just say, hey, I saw one of your videos and I want to say, hey, I want to give you a suggestion. So what that does is it forces me to find out, do research, watch maybe whatever watch, read both, and I just see, well, what is classified as canon and what is classified as not. Generally, I just bring in whatever is both canon and not canon. So even in the strongest possible way, the outcome may not change. And especially for the situation, it didn't change a bit. It changed like 1.1. That's how much it changed everything by. So it doesn't really, yeah, it doesn't exactly change much. But I'm good. I'll see y'all in the next video, and make sure to keep giving me suggestions, because that is why I'm still doing this. You guys keep giving me suggestions. I'll keep doing it until you tell me not to. So I'll see you all the next